Alright, so here is my dialogue-driven behavior modified to be able to handle indirect utterances. So unfortunately, when I try to use the config file, it never works. It just kind of sits there and waits forever to get the required connections. So I know I'm supposed to use a config file, but I can't get the configs to work. So I'm just going to run it manually for now until I can figure out how to get my config files to work. So let's start by running the registry. Pull up the goal manager. Simulated robot environment and the robot to go inside that environment. Then the dialog manager after we run the location spy, which provides the behavior to change the robot's behavior. Okay, so dialog manager. Okay, so we need the goal manager to run the XML file. Another useful thing to have up is the belief component, which is started by the goal manager by default. So you can see how it changes as we run this action script. So we're using the homework 3 action script. Add to database. Run the action, and I have it sleeping for 10,000 units in between the actions, so we should be able to see them be pretty clearly separated. Okay, so running. Our first one is Alice saying that she would like a cat. So Alice says, I would like a cat. And the model infers that she needs a cat, and then it sounds the cat alarm. The next one is, can you turn around? And the robot begins spinning. Then, can you stop? Is submitted as an utterance, and the robot stops. Then finally, we have an utterance saying, I think GLaDOS has deployed a turret, which the system interprets as just asserting a new belief that GLaDOS has deployed a turret, and then we have it start spinning. So the way that I coded these is by having them only modify the belief component. So it was my opinion that just because you say, can you spin, meaning that you want the robot to spin, doesn't mean that it's necessarily safe for the robot to do so. So rather than having it passed in as a direct command, I simply had it interpret can you spin as adding to the belief that we want the robot to spin, and then our system would theoretically process it from there and decide if, just because the user wants the robot to spin, deciding if that should actually become a command or not. So these all go through the belief component, and then they call a second test function to actually act on the belief. But I think that's a pretty sturdy setup just to make sure that the users aren't able to just send any command in willy-nilly and have the robot act on it immediately. So that is the conclusion of this demo.